Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time it is a review of the 2019 horror film slash creature feature, Crawl. Now, Crawl is a film that I was honestly really anticipating and looking forward to. Ever since I first saw the trailer, because I thought it looked like a lot of fun. Looked like a nice, fun throwback creature feature. I hadn't seen one of those in the theater in a long time. So it was something that I was definitely looking forward to. And I saw the film a while back in the theater, and I really enjoyed it. In fact, I love the film. It's one of my favorite films of 2019, and definitely one of the best creature features I've seen in the past few years. For many years, the creature feature genre has kind of been on a downturn. A lot of the creature features have just been Sci-Fi Channel original movie type quality and just been like straight up garbage. So it's been really refreshing to see a creature feature that isn't Sharknado levels of terrible. So, Crawl is definitely one of those movies where you're gonna have to turn your brain off and just sit back and enjoy. It's not realistic, but that's not the point. And I know there's some people who have criticized the film, some critics have criticized the film for its unrealism, but um, the fact that it's unrealistic never bothered me at all. In fact, it opens up more possibilities for the film and more crazy things that the movie can do and accomplish. Speaking of crazy things, the direction by Alexandre Aja is crazy good. His direction in this is awesome. It's amazing. This is a director to me has one of the best track records out there for a horror director. Whether it's him producing, like in 2012's Maniac, or it's him directing with films like the Hills Have Eyes remake, Alexandre Aja is a director who is ravenous in terms of his energy and is a very dynamic and spectacular director. One of the best working today, if you ask me. He just really handles his shots so well and with such a deft hand and with so much talent and style and flair. I mean, the way that he frames his different shots in this is impressive. There's a particular sequence near the end where the lead character, the lead gal, Haley, she's in a death roll with a gator, and while the gator is spinning around underwater, the camera is also spinning with her, and it's just a unique and a great shot. And there's just so many unique and wonderful shots like that uh, littered throughout this entire movie. This is a really impressive directorial effort by Alexandre Aja. To be honest, I don't think the film would be as good without his direction. And his direction is so good and so effective and so amazing that he makes this $13.5 million film look like it's twice the budget. This is a director who I am really looking forward to whatever he does next. Even if he's announced to be the director for a Nightmare on Elm Street remake, I'd be curious about the film just for his direction alone because he's that impressive and he's that good at what he does. The screenplay by the Rasmussen brothers, Michael and Sean Rasmussen, I thought was a pretty solid script. I did have a few issues with it, but they're honestly, for the most part, minor nitpicks. I thought he did a really good job with the characterization, with making you care for the characters, especially the two lead characters, which, in all honesty, this film is centered around them. It's centered around Haley and Dave Keller. Haley is this headstrong, you know, headstrong is the better word for it. She's headstrong, she's stubborn, she's a student athlete, she's a swimmer. She's had the relationship between her and her father completely fall apart. Used to be one of the strongest parts of her life, and it's just no longer where it once was. And then you have her father, Dave, and he's kind of a fuck up. He's kind of made his fair share of mistakes in his life. A lot in some ways, definitely uh, things that can deteriorate a relationship between a father and a daughter. And the script does a good job showing these things and showing them rebuild their relationship and learn how to not only coexist with one another, but to lean on and to rely upon one another in order to survive, which is a really great element to the script. It gives it a really big beating heart, and I always appreciate that kind of stuff in films. Period. And when you have something like that with a horror movie, it just makes things all the more powerful in terms of how well the film resonates and how much more effective the suspense and thrills are. Aja and the Rasmussens, they understand one of the core tenets of what makes a efficient and effective suspense or horror thriller. And that is having characters that you can engage with as an audience, characters that are compelling, characters that you learn to actually like and appreciate, characters that you care about. So when they are put in a dangerous situation, there is genuine suspense. And they understand that. They understand how important that is. There's a lot of horror films nowadays that don't get that. They think all the horror films are is jump scares and disturbing imagery and gore, and that's all that a horror film needs in order to be effective. But Aja and the Rasmussens, they understood the thing that a lot of other great horror writers know and have known for years. It's not about those things, it's about the characters. If you don't relate to the characters or you don't find them charismatic or you don't there's not something about them that you latch onto, then there's no suspense and there's no thrills. And for a film like this that relies upon a fast pace and really building tension, you have to have those characters. And I thought really did a solid job doing that. There's gator bait. There's totally gator bait. The other characters in the film are straight up gator bait. But and the gator bait characters serve their purpose as well to provide some crowd pleasing bits of gore for the audience. I mean, there's one in particular I thought was really good, where two gators go up against these looters and rip one in half, and rip his limbs off and rip his head off. Like there's some really nice moments like that in terms of the gore. So the film knows its audience when it comes to that aspect, but it also knows you need more than that to really allow the film to swim as far as it can instead of sink. Um, but I would say I would have liked to have seen a little bit more craziness, a little bit more of a body count, and the ending isn't quite as explosive in terms of the climax. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more to it. Uh, Definitely something that is more eye catching than what ultimately was provided for the ending. But it's not a terrible ending by any means. It's just I would have liked to have had a little bit more of like a visceral, like holy shit type of ending to match with a lot of the other aspects of the film that really uh, gave me that kind of emotion. Because there's a lot of really visceral, intense scenes in this movie. There's some nail biting moments of suspense where the characters are in the basement in this small enclosed space with these giant gators that are starving and ravenous and want to eat them. And it's all about trying to stay one step ahead of them. And there's some great shots and great stuff involving with gators hiding in the shadows and then popping out. Um, the sequence where Haley has to swim through the swim drain, the storm drain. It might as well be a swim drain because she has to swim through it. But the storm drain sequence is one of the best sequences in the film in terms of how it's shot and how it's edited. Um, and there's a lot of other shots throughout the film that are quite eye catching actually, and quite impressive. And It's just one of those movies that there's so many things about it that really work, and work really well. So the little things that didn't quite work as well as they could have for me are honestly minor nitpicks at the end of the day. They don't affect my overall enjoyment of the film that much. The cast is really solid. I think the cast is great. The film relies upon these two leads to carry the film, and I feel they do a good job at that. They put the film on their shoulders and carry it to the finish line. Kaya Scodelario, I thought was really good as Haley Keller. I really liked her performance. She was tough. She was believably tough. Didn't feel like she was trying too hard, trying to be something that she isn't. And I definitely like the swimming aspect of her, that she's a swimmer and she incorporates that with her performance and with her character. And it was nice to see a strong female lead that isn't like in your face with it. Like, it's a realistic, restrained kind of performance. And that was nice to see. It wasn't like, oh my god, she's a woman and she's strong and she's, a badass. It was more understated, but it worked. It really did. And I thought her and Barry Pepper had great chemistry. I bought that they were related to one another. And I thought that as the film went on, when things got crazier and crazier, and the stakes kept getting raised higher and higher, I thought that the two of them really did raise their game. The rest of the cast, they're there. They're not given a whole lot to do, and they're not asked to do a whole lot. There's other cast members who are just there to be straight up gator bait, and they serve that role well. So, and other ones are just there to move the plot along. And they do their jobs fairly well when it comes to that. But the film is honestly a two-person show. It's a two-actor show, and that's Kaya and Barry, and they do a really good job. The film has a score by Max Arouge and Stephen Thumb that's really just it's kind of a bum of a score because it's not really memorable. There's not really any notes that really resonate or stick with you. That's one thing about the film I think could have been improved upon. The score really it's just there. It's nothing really that impressive. The cinematography by Maxime Alexandre is gritty and dark and dingy and muddy looking and matches the atmosphere and the mood of the film quite well. Adds a nice little chunk of all those elements into the mix. The editing by Elliot Greenberg I thought was excellent. This is a film that is very fast paced. It's 87 minutes, and that's with the end credits. So you take out the end credits, it's even shorter of a film. And it goes by at a breakneck hurricane wind speed. So it needs editing that fits with that. And it definitely does match. Like, you can see that just from the opening credit sequence with with Haley swimming at a swim meet. Like, you can just see that kind of energy and that intensity just in that one sequence alone. And the editing and the direction is really filled to the brim with that kind of energy and intensity. And that's what this film needed. It needed that kind of energy and intensity. You're dealing with a crazy fucking scenario. You're dealing with a scenario where you have two people trying to survive in a tight enclosed space with two giant massive gators, and then you also have a hurricane outside. So there's things are insane. So you really need that kind of insane energy to really make things work and to take things to another level. And I definitely feel the editing and the directing really do accomplish that. It's too bad the film didn't do that well. I mean, it made $74.6 million on a $13.5 million budget. So it made a little bit of a profit, but it's not like it was a box office smash. And that's too bad because I thought this was a gem. I thought it was a great film for what it is. It's a really good, fantastic, phenomenal creature feature. Even the gator effects, like a lot of it's CGI, but I thought for the low budget, I thought the CGI was actually pretty good. I didn't think the CGI was really particularly egregious or bad. I don't know if there was any practical effects. It would have been nice to see some of that. That's one of the reasons why I prefer Alligator, the 1980 film starring Robert Forster, because there's a lot of practical effects in that. But this is still a great Gator movie. Like this is like the second. This is like right underneath Alligator, because it's just a really good time at the movies. It's got characters that are likable and engaging. It's got some great bits of gore and got some really great moments of suspense and thrills. And there's even some moments that are pretty shocking in terms of the overall bloodletting. I mean, the spoiler, but there's a scene near the end where Barry Pepper's character, Dave, gets his arm bitten off, and I didn't see it coming, and it is gory as hell. Like it really does elicit that like, oh holy shit, type of reaction. And when I was watching in the theater, there were a lot of people who were just like, oh, it really makes you wince because it's a really well put together sequence, and the effects are really effective. There's a lot of practical makeup effects in this when it comes to the aftermath of the gore or the gore itself, like when his arm gets bitten off. So, and that just adds to the overall intensity of the film and the overall efficiency of it and the overall uh, quality of the film, because it knows when it needs to bite hard. It knows when it needs to bite a little soft and have some levity, but then it also knows when to really clamp down and spray some blood, and get you like really on edge. So it knows how to do that, and exactly what moments and what point in time to really sink its teeth into the audience. Anyway, yeah, I don't really know what else to say about Crawl, except I highly recommend this one. If you haven't seen it yet, definitely check it out when it comes out on home video, on DVD or Blu-ray. It's my favorite horror film of 2019 to date. And like I said, it's one of my favorite creature features. I haven't seen a creature feature this good and this much fun in the theater in a long time. So yeah, if it's something that interests you, definitely go see it. Don't just don't walk to see it. Don't run. Swim as hard and as fast as you can, uh, and check out Crawl, because it is a blast, and it's a movie that I could definitely see becoming a midnight type of movie, like a cult classic, where it's just going to be a real crowd pleaser for genre fans for many, many years to come. So I don't know what to say about the film. It's a rated out of 5 stars. I would give Crawl 4.5 out of 5. Like I said, just for those little things that I didn't feel were as great as they could have been. Other than that, didn't really have that many issues with the movie. So anyway, thank you for watching my review of Crawl. And as always, I will see you later. See ya.